In the past, I have been told by somebody that I am highly critical. All I do is nitpick, and they can't do anything right. And the defensive side of me is like, give me examples. I don't feel the same way you do. And what's interesting is until last week's episode, I didn't agree. When I was researching emotional abuse and I got to the part about being a critical and being constantly criticized, all I could think of was, oh my gosh, that's me. And that was part of the really hard part about recording last week's episode, is when I have been emotionally abused by some of the people that are closest to me. But I also had to realize, like, I am doing and have done and have in the past emotionally abused people that are close to me as well. Then I had to just deep dive, because it was like for 4 days I was just like spiraling on this topic of me being hypercritical. And why am I hypercritical? Because my natural personality is not a hypercritical personality. I am a high on the Enneagram 7. If you know anything about the Enneagram, I am all about positivity. I don't like negatively talking about people. I can't stand hypercritical people. I'm just like, you guys are so negative. And so it was so eye-opening to me to realize, like, this is me, but why am I like this? I realized that the reason why I am hypercritical is because I have years of resentment against this one person. And so my reaction to my pain is being hypercritical. And the unhealthy side of me wants to justify that, right? Like, well, if they wouldn't have done this, and if they wouldn't have lied, and if there wasn't betrayal, and if there wasn't this and this and this, then I wouldn't be this way. And it's like, at the end of the day, we have to be so aware of how we behave and how we show up and how we act. We cannot act poorly and mistreat people because of our past pain with that person. And what I realized is, when I go meet the Lord one day, I'm not going to have to answer for the pain that that person caused me, but I'm sure going to have to answer for how I treated this person because of my pain. And that has kind of taken me out this week. So what I am going to talk about today is resentment, because we all feel it. We all have it. We all act out because of it. And I myself had no clue how to work through this resentment. I mean, there are people that you just simply can't cut off and who will be in your life forever. And how do you deal with those people when they've caused you so much pain? And how do you make sure that you're showing up in a way that not only honors yourself and your family, but also honors God? And it's kind of crazy. I feel like every week I am just completely drowned by some emotional aha moment that I've learned, and it's always about myself. Like, we can point fingers at everybody around us, right? But if we're not correcting our own behavior, who are we to set the standard for the people around us? Like, I can't have a standard of the people around me have to have accountability for when they do something that is harmful, if I don't have the same accountability for my own harmful behavior. So I'm actually really excited to talk about this today. So let's dive into it. Resentment is such an interesting phenomenon. And this aha about resentment completely just opened my eyes to what resentment even is. Resentment is a feeling that we feel is happening right now, as if it's happening in this exact moment. But it's the exact opposite. It's actually in the past. The word resentment, it's re-sentiment, and the Latin root for that is sentir, which means to feel. So the re part of the resentment is to actually re-feel that pain. So it's not actually that pain is happening now, but it's that you're feeling it now. And resentment, it doesn't just show up overnight, okay? It builds slowly and quietly. And sometimes it's so subtle that you don't even realize it till bam, it's there. Until you're exhausted and you're snappy, secretly fantasizing about just disappearing and going away. And it often starts from not feeling seen or heard or valued or even understood. And that your reality, like your current being, it doesn't match the version of your life that you wanted or that you do want. And maybe you're showing up and you're doing the work and you're quote unquote keeping the peace, but you're still being overlooked. And that disconnect right there, that is the breeding ground for resentment. And resentment starts to grow when you silence your needs because you just don't want to rock the boat. When you keep saying yes and exhausting yourself and you should just be saying no. It grows when you speak the truth and you speak your feelings, but yet nothing changes. Or when you're doing all of the emotional lifting in a one-sided relationship. And I mean, this can be with your parent, with a partner, with a friend. It builds in the silence, in the guessing games, or even in the hopes that somebody will quote unquote just know what you need. And it grows when you don't feel appreciated or valued. And then slowly, you just start to pull away. You start to become a little passive aggressive. And then you start making them have to guess how you feel, what mood you're in. And then guess what? They're the ones that end up walking on your eggshells. And then the cycle, it goes round and round. Psychologists, they actually define resentment as a mixture of disgust, disappointment, anger, and fear. And here's where it gets so incredibly real, is it's not just emotional, it actually becomes physical. According to a study that was done, chronic resentment activates the same exact pathways in our body as anxiety and PTSD. Your cortisol spikes, your blood pressure goes up, which completely eats away at your health. And this is not just my opinion, you guys. There was a study done that proved that holding on to resentment is associated with the highest level of inflammation. And get this, there was another study done in 2019 that people who hold on to grudges, they had significantly higher chances of having high blood pressure, which actually highly increases your risk of having cardiovascular diseases. Resentment can actually kill your heart. It kills your body and it kills your heart. And since we're talking about the heart, let's actually dive in a little bit deeper about the heart because I found some really interesting things that I just blew my mind away. Have you guys ever heard of broken heart syndrome? So when they say like, oh, they broke my heart or my heart is so broken, guys, it's actually a real thing. It's a documented condition where intense emotional stress causes part of your heart to literally stop functioning. And your left ventricle, which is the part of your heart that is responsible for pumping out your body's blood, this can actually balloon out. And doctors have found that this condition actually mimics and can give you a heart attack. So you can die from your resentment. And the biggest aha moment for all of this for me was, when I'm like hypercritical of this person and I'm short-toned and I am passive aggressive and I just, let's all be honest. We do it because we want to cause them pain. We're hurting and hurt people, right? And so what the biggest aha moment for me is, the only person I'm hurting is my freaking self. That's it. I'm killing myself because this person hurt me and I'm holding on to it. Every time I'm passive aggressive, every time I'm critical. Every time they're around and I go into fight or flight, I'm killing myself. I'm hurting my heart. I'm inflamed. I can't sleep. My stress response is super high. My cortisol levels are through the roof. I'm killing myself. And long-term resentment contributes to chronic emotional stress that creates the perfect storm for this broken heart syndrome. So this broken heart syndrome is not just if a loved one passes away and my heart is so broken that it actually, half of it starts to die, because that actually happens. It's also triggered by your own stress levels. So the term that resentment is eating me alive, it's true. Or, goodness, they're just breaking my heart. They are. They're actually physically breaking it. But the most powerful part of all of this for me that I've learned is I have the power to change that. I have the power to control how I show up, how I react, how I behave, how I hold myself accountable. I can't do shit to keep this other person from hurting me. I can't keep them from giving me the silent treatment and shutting me out and causing me emotional turmoil. But I can control how I choose to show up every single day. I can control my tone, the words I say. I can hold in those passive-aggressive comments. I can get a journal and write them all out so I'm not taking them out on this other person. And there is so much weight just lifted off my shoulders knowing that I'm actually the one in control of this. You don't get to allow my body to die, okay? My body is my control, and I am tired of being inflamed because I'm blaming you for my emotional response to your pain that you've caused me. And while studying all of this about resentment, what I found so fascinating is the different types of resentment. And the one that I think just does not get enough airtime is silent resentment. And the reason why I don't think it gets enough airtime is because I don't think people actually want to be accountable. I think people are so comfortable blaming other people that to look inward and realize maybe I'm the cause of my own resentment, it's too uncomfortable. Silent resentment is not built by what is said. It's built by what is not said. We didn't speak up when things didn't feel right. We avoided that hard conversation. And this type of resentment is truly rooted in you abandoning your own boundaries, which is not anybody else's fault. This starts with our own silence. Every single time somebody said, "What's wrong?" Because let's be honest, anytime something's wrong, we can all tell, right? Even the best of us who think we hide our emotions, we don't freaking hide them. It shows in our face, it shows in our body language, it shows in our tone, or even in our silence. So anytime somebody asks us, "What's wrong?" and you say, "Nothing, I'm fine." All of these things, they build up and they add up. And I'm not saying that you have to be explosive or reactive when you're communicating, because there is two extremes to this, right? You can be so silent that you don't speak up for yourself, but you can also have volatile behavior by communicating all of your needs in explosion. Neither way is healthy. But our silence, it becomes the soil for where resentment grows, right? And we just expect them to figure it out on their own. And then when they don't figure it out on their own, they get punished. I mean, if you can't say that that alone is emotional abuse, then you got some serious inner work to do. And I'm going to share something personal here, because I've been on this other side of the silent resentment. And I know I talked a little bit about it in my last episode, but I want to tell you guys what it really feels like to be on that opposite side. There was a time when somebody that I loved so deeply And this person, I fully trusted them. And you know what? They gave me the silent treatment, which is literally a form of silent resentment. No conversations, no explanations, just complete disconnect. And I found out much later, in fact, years later, that they had been quietly collecting all of this resentment towards me. This just built an entire case against me without ever even giving me the fighting chance to become a better person, to do better, to show up better, to care about their feelings better, to soften my tone, to just correct my behavior, because, we all hurt people that we love. And it's our job, if we love them, to show up differently and acknowledge that and validate that. But I was never given that chance, ever. I had no idea that I was put on the stand, and not just for this one person, but as we all do, we go to people to vent, right, about the things that we're frustrated about. Except when you vent to people and you've never given that person a chance to change, you put them on the stand without even giving them the chance to defend themselves. And by the time that I had actually learned what they had been feeling, it was too late. The damage was done. My reputation in certain relationships was already ruined. My sense of safety and trust with this person completely shattered. And my body, like my actual nervous system, still to this day responds to that memory of the silent betrayal. And anytime I'm presented with somebody who is silently backing away or not talking to me about their feelings or not giving me the chance to change, or withdraws and becomes like short-toned and one-word responses, I am so triggered because I've already been through that. And it doesn't just hurt, it haunts you for years. It shows up in other relationships and friendships and work relationships and relationships with your siblings and your family. This type of pain, it shows up and it just eats away at every part of your life. And that's what emotional abuse does. And this type of silent resentment, it is emotional abuse. And not only are you hurting somebody that you love or the people that you care about, but all of this proof just showed you're actually hurting yourself more. So if you're the person who's just keeping it all inside, thinking that magically it's all just going to fix itself without the hard conversations, without the accountability, this is your freaking wake-up call, okay? Holding it in, it doesn't make you strong. It makes you sick. I can't emphasize it enough. And I'm sharing this story again because so many of us are on the side of that silent resentment where we're the ones doing it and causing the pain for ourselves. But there are those of us who are on the other side of it, who are just trying to grasp for air and understand what you're feeling. And we're the ones like desperately trying to pull these conversations out of you and understand you and work on ourselves with no direction of what's actually hurting you, right? And then by the time that you want to make it right and you're like, maybe I am the problem, sometimes it's just too late. You've already done the damage, but not just for you and I's relationship and for myself, but for yourself. So avoiding these hard conversations, it doesn't prevent your pain. It delays it. Your silent resentment and the fact that you have to work on this does not excuse other people's behavior. But who are we accountable for? Ourselves. And how we show up and how we choose to communicate, regardless of somebody else's tone, regardless of their facial expressions or their body language or their explosive behavior. We are accountable, and we will have to answer to God on how we chose to show up through our own pain. And I don't know about you, but I sure as hell don't want to experience heart disease and broken heart syndrome and an immune system that's compromised and insomnia and inflammation and PTSD and all of the things that come with holding on to anger. And for me, leading into my next point, the next type of resentment, which is where I struggle the most, and this is a specific type of resentment that comes when you express your needs, when you are the type that does communicate, whether it's physical, emotional, or even practical needs like day-to-day house chores or, weekly phone calls that you're wanting, spending time together, whatever it may be. And when you express all of these needs, nothing ever changes. Maybe it does for, a week or two, but then it goes right back to the same pattern. And this type is particularly difficult because this leads you to just feel completely invisible. Or even worse, that you are unworthy of your needs being met. And so when we put ourselves out there and we are vulnerable and we are honest and we are transparent, and then that is met with nothing in return, this can lead to so much frustration and honestly disgust. And over time, you're going to feel rejected and dismissed, and all of this leads to feelings of resentment. And this type of resentment, this is the most common type of resentment in long-term relationships, whether that be a partner, your friend, a parent. This becomes your breeding ground of resentment. And I want to be very clear, this is not just one conversation, okay? This is a direct pattern of unmet needs. And then you become like me and you become a hypercritical, angry person whenever you're around that person. And one of the hardest pills to swallow in all of this is, you know what? We may never get the apology we feel we deserve. But the truth is, these people have been this way their entire lives. And this wishful thinking that they will suddenly transform just keeps us trapped in this cycle of pure disappointment. So one of the ways that we have to choose to show up and to actually heal is to let go of our own expectations of who we wish they were and want them to be. It is one of the hardest pills for me to swallow. And it's because I'm in the thick of it, you guys. I am in the thick of this resentment. And so it's painful for me to hear that I have to let go of my expectation for them to show up better. But the truth is, if you really think about that, that is your only ticket to actually setting yourself free. And this gives you permission to show up how you want to show up. It's do I want to be a critical, angry person? No, I do not want to be that way. I don't want to teach my kids that when you are hurt, you hurt people, right? And so this gives me permission to take my focus off of their behavior and say, when does this cycle end? Because it's going to keep going, right? Especially in the dynamics where you have one with silent resentment and one with the spoken resentment, but there's been no change, right? And then we just become wrapped in this vicious cycle of, well, I'm resentful towards you because of this, and I'm resentful towards you because of this. If you wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done this. And you see how toxic this is? The only person that you can control and take ownership and have expectations for is yourself. So I have to choose to show up and be okay, who am I going to be proud of at the end of the day? Am I going to be proud of the person who got super freaking snippy because somebody took a breath the wrong way? No, I'm not going to be proud of that person. And then this gives you space to have relationships with these people because, like I have said 1,000 times, you cannot cut every single person out of your life that pisses you off and hurts you, right? That's unrealistic, and it's just a toxic mindset that we have to throw out the window. Yes, there are times where a complete cutoff is necessary, but there are times it's just not going to happen. And so taking ownership of our actions and how we choose to show up and choose to do better and break the cycle with us, I'm no longer continuing this cycle. This allows me to still show up and actually gives us a chance to enjoy our time together. Visualize this, okay? You have a family that is really hard for you to be around. When you are around them, you feel drained. Everybody is critical. They're all stuck in this cycle of emotional abuse and even sometimes physical abuse, and you're trying to step out of that. And every single time you go back to visit, you feel like you're just being dragged back into all of that, and you're falling into those traps and you're fighting and it's chaos. And you have all these expectations that maybe it'll be different next time. And then when they all prove to be who they've already proven to be, you're once again disappointed. And that brick of resentment is built again. And then you show up in a way that you don't want to be, right? Releasing those expectations like, okay, I know that this person is a highly critical person. I know that they can be mean, they can be snippy, they want things a certain way. They're mad because somebody's not on time or whatever it may be, right? I can expect that behavior from you. So I have choices. If I don't want to have my holiday ruined, guess what? I can just not go. I can create my own family traditions for Christmas. Or I can choose to show up and be like, they are who they are. Their behavior can be hurtful, yes. But I don't have to play their game. And you can go and be the best version of yourself and put space and have healthy boundaries for that person and enjoy your time. And so often in situations like this where we could possibly have a great time and be our best selves, we don't, because remember that re-feeling, that resentment, that resentment shows up again. And maybe what's even happening now is just a trigger from a past wound from the last Christmas. So we have to show up and be so honest with ourselves in these moments where our nervous system is reacting based off of a past experience and say, is this actually happening right now in this moment? Or am I being hypersensitive to my past pain? And that is going to be so hard for me to do. And I'm going to tell you something really comical, right? So I came up with this conclusion that I am a highly critical person when I'm around this person and that I was going to do better. But can you break a habit or let go of resentment in one day? No. I was like, today is going to be the day that I am a better person. I'm showing up and I'm doing better. And you know what? When I went to go leave, I can always tell when this particular person is not happy with me because normally our goodbyes sound similar to, okay, bye, drive safe. But when this particular person is not happy with me, they're short. It's see ya. And me having this, trauma response, nervous system reaction of not liking these short, dismissive type of responses because I know what is underneath it and I know what's underneath that silence and that detachment. And my natural reaction is to want to fight out whatever it is that they're thinking or feeling. I stomped my happy ass back in and I was like, see ya is freaking rude. And they said, well, I thought see ya is something nice that you say when you're in Idaho, because here in Idaho, everybody says, see ya, when you get off the phone. And I'm like, well, you're not from Idaho. As I walked away. And just like that, I fell back right into my same pattern of being hypercritical. I could have just let it go. I can expect when this person is unhappy and I have no idea why that, you know what, I'm going to get short, dismissive responses. And I could have just had a great day. But instead, I fell right back into playing checkers and not chess, and I reacted. And then, who was in the wrong? I was in the wrong. So what we have to do is accept that the people in our lives are the way they are, and we can't do a damn thing about it. And no matter how much we change our behavior, we can't do it with the hopes that they're going to change theirs, right? We have to show up because we want to show up as who we want to be at the end of the day. And the next thing I had to learn is I had to grieve what I didn't get. It is so painful to be hurt by somebody that you love so dearly, and you're going to grieve that. And that grief is going to want to be masked and hidden by anger and retaliation and lashing out. And so you have to give yourself permission to grieve. Grieve the conversation that wasn't had, the apology you never got, and then you have to release what's no longer yours. And another extremely hard pill to swallow, along with releasing what is not yours to carry anymore, is understanding that every single thing that you have been through up till today is necessary for your story. All of the heartbreak and the joyful moments, and not to say like, goodness, God forbid, like I don't want you to think that this is a way of saying like you deserve to be punished for like who you are. It's not what I'm saying at all, okay? But everything that has brought you where you are today, your soul needed to go through. And that doesn't exonerate people from the pain that they have caused. They will still be morally accountable for the wrong that they did. But one thing I have to recognize is that my life is exactly where it is and where it needs to be for my journey. I am the main character. I have the power, and I can accept that everything I've gone through has completely formed me into the person I am today. With all of that being said, here are some ways that I have found that could really help us just let go of the resentment, okay? I want you to grab a journal, and I want you to write down all of the experiences up till today that you have gone through. And then I want you to acknowledge that you are no longer going to be tortured by these repeating thoughts over and over and over, okay? Write it down, and then tell yourself, these were necessary for my story. And then number 2, this was a huge aha for me, because remember, I'm the one that vocalizes my needs and my emotions and my feelings, right? I'm the communicator. And so learning this was like, oh, maybe I'm not doing it quite like I should be. So I want you to think of your conversations as a share and not an accusation. Keep your conversations about what you are feeling and not at all about them. And this will lead to more of an open communication. And let me tell you exactly how I have gotten this wrong, okay? I say, you didn't tell me the truth. You shut me down. You shut me out. You were silent. I can't trust you. You were wrong. You. None of that is going to lead to somebody wanting to hear your pain, right? So thinking about these conversations as a share, I am sharing with you me. Is just opening the window for more of a two-way lane conversation. And I struggle really bad with that because I just want to tell people exactly what they did wrong. And I need them to know that they are the problem, right? But that causes people to get really, really defensive. And I recognize that. And once you start thinking about communicating in a way of sharing your feelings, then I want you to get that journal again. And I want you to actually think about and write down what your needs even are. What do I actually need from this person to move forward without resentment? How can I turn the page? Do I need an agreement? Do I need an apology? Do I need acknowledgement? Do I need a certain amount of time of changed behavior that are an antidote to the hurt that I have had? What is it that I actually need from them to rebuild my trust? You get to decide what it is that you want to ask for, but it is equally just as important for you to take ownership of what you actually need. Because this other person might be trying to repair that relationship with you and rebuild in a way that really works for them. But because that's not what you need, this is going to lead to them feeling like a failure. And then eventually they're going to give up altogether because they don't know what you need. And it might be so obvious because like for me, it's like, well, I have told you all of my feelings. Can't you see? Did you not listen? But the truth is, it's not obvious at all. And I had to self-reflect on this because I was like, as a communicator, have I actually even identified my own needs? And you know what? I haven't. And I realized that I have expected the people in my life to change because I felt telling them my feelings was enough. And it's just not. But you know what? I don't even know what my needs are. So I have to do the same thing. I have to grab that same journal and I have to write down and really think about what are my needs that would rebuild trust here. I don't know, but we're going to find out. We're going to do this. This is what I'm doing too, guys. It's not just you. And lastly, I cannot say this enough. I want you to really take a look at the part that you have played in these situations that you feel resentful. And this is not at all to minimize any of your hurt from your relationship, because I know it hurts. This means you have the ability to create something better. And if I have played any part that would cause any of this resentment, then I have to clean up my side. And this reality is so important because it applies to literally anything that we do. And then with that, guys, hard pill to swallow coming up. You have to be willing to create a new narrative. Starting now, starting with you. If there are things that your partner has owned, or your parent, a friend, and this person has acknowledged and expressed accountability, and they are committed to trying something new, then you have a decision to make. Am I going to lean in and step into this new narrative? Am I going to allow myself to actually be able to receive the things that are new now? Am I going to allow this to fix it? And so many times, we want the other person to do the work and to fix it and rebuild, but we aren't actually willing to receive it. And it's so hard if there are still things, like for me, being shut out or just really short dismissive responses that are completely triggering and make me want to spiral back into that past pain. So if there are cues and there's triggers that are really similar to what experiences you've had in the past that created that resentment, and you're trying to turn this new page, then you have to show up again and you have to ask for something different. This is something that's so important that we have to ask ourselves. Am I willing to let it go? And if you are, then you have to identify what you need to ask for in order to help let it go. And this will help create a foundation of trust that you can lean into and be open about things actually being different. And lastly, if you have a relationship where you have so much resentment and there is so much pain, and you know that this person is not going to want to change their behavior, then we have to go back to the book of boundaries, because that is what is going to help you create a more meaningful and peaceful life for yourself. We can expect that people are going to be who they've always been, right? That doesn't mean that we have to be around them. And while yes, there are people that will always be in our lives, we get to decide how much access they actually have to us. And we have the power of how we think, how we speak, and how we feel, okay? And you have to take ownership of, these are the ones you absolutely cannot abandon your boundaries with. So if this person, if you can cut ties with them, do it, okay? Do it. Stop reliving the cycle over and over and over and over. They're not going to change, okay? They don't want to change. They have been like this their whole lives. Stop expecting them to be different. No matter what you do, how you behave, how you act, they aren't going to change. So let them go or create some serious distance between you two. All of this resentment can be healed through managing your expectations, setting boundaries, and taking ownership for your part in your own pain. And all of this was one massive freaking wake-up call for me. And I owe some serious apologies after this, okay? And I'm going to do my part. And I'm going to apologize for my part in my own pain. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. Get that journal, write down all of the hurt and pain And then at the very end of it, write down, all of this was necessary for my story. And close that chapter. And then next, think about your needs and your boundaries, and think about who you are willing to lean into a better life with and a new chapter with, and who you're not. And then I want you to speak up and set the boundaries, have the hard conversations, apologize for your part, go cry it out, and then let it go. You don't want to live the rest of your life holding a grudge. It will literally kill you. Resentment is so real, but you know what? So is your healing journey. And we are learning, and we are healing, and we are growing, literally, you guys, together, okay? This episode was more for me than anyone else. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for letting me speak my truth. I feel so vulnerable and so exposed, and I just have so much to work on, and that's what I love about this the most, is you and I, we're doing this together, and I cannot say enough from the bottom of my heart how thankful I am for every one of you. I'm your friend and your host, Rini Spencer, and I will see you in the next episode. I love you guys.